Swinging a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Jean.
You are listening to the Fly the W podcast. It is a warm and hot and sweltery Thursday, Crawly. Summer all of a sudden caught up on us really quick. This is season 4. It's episode number 30, an unsatisfying Cubs series win. That is, to say the least. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe. Most importantly, review the podcast. Follow on all your social media platforms. I'm at Mully and Haw on X.
And you can follow me at Crawly's Clubs on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. And if you have any questions or comments, hey, we'd love to hear from you at Crawly's Clubhouse at gmail.com. Dustin, where was this hot weather when I was freezing my butt off last night in a fog bowl in Wrigley Field?
Well, let's get into that right away. Forget about the game for a second. We'll get into that as we go through this. But I'm curious because I knew you were at the game. First of all, you had a shirt on that said, what did it say?
No wave at Wrigley.
No wave at Wrigley.
Yeah, for people that were unaware, there was a wave that probably went around 4 or 5 times on Saturday. I was quite disappointed.
It's like a hard rule, right? It's almost like
very hard rule.
It's almost like ketchup on hot dogs in Chicago. No wave at Wrigley.
No wave at Wrigley. Never.
In the same church, different pew. No ketchup on hot dogs. And no wave at Wrigley.
No wave at Wrigley ever, ever, ever. That is a basic bleacher rule. There can be arguments about, I've had people argue about cup snakes and this and that and the other, but no wave. That there's no negotiation. It's not negotiable.
I can get down with no wave at Wrigley. So what was that? I mean, it was almost. I don't know if you remember. You were probably like an 8th grader. I was a freshman in high school, but it reminded me of the Bears-Eagles game when the fog. They ended up calling it the Fog Bowl. A fog rolled into Soldier Field, and basically the announcers, Crawly, in this game, I know you're not a big football guy, but you are a media guy and an announcer guy. The announcers were saying, based on the way that the crowd that was in the lower bowl are reacting, we think the Bears must have just done something good. They couldn't broadcast the game. I was listening on the radio with Walkman, old school Walkman radio. I was at a high school wrestling event. And it was just the most bizarre thing you've ever seen. The fog was like right above the players' heads.
Yeah, it was rolling in on and off all game. And so it's funny because we're going to talk about Kyle Stowers. He hits 2 home runs in that game last night, but the one he hit to right field, I couldn't see it. It was lost. So we were all where I'm sitting on the third base side upper deck. Like we weren't even sure it was a home run. And
that crazy. And then the reaction, you wouldn't know it was a home run either, right? I mean,
yeah, everyone was kind of looking around.
Reaction,
like, did that go out?
Yeah. All right, let's get into the reaction, Crawly. So game number 1, Colin Ray versus, and I love when Mully does this. I don't know if you've heard it. Maybe some of our audience has, but he goes into this whole Cal Contrail like he's this Southern general for the South during the Confederacy. Cal Contrail pitching for your Marlins last night.
Yeah, I got to tell you, after struggling against the Giants, we were hoping that Colin Ray would have a bounce back start. And at a time when the Cubs needed a starter to give him some length, Ray was able to go 6 2/3 inning, which I thought was huge, right?
Longest he's done this year, right?
Mm-hmm. In the first inning, he gives up a single, but got Augustin Ramirez to hit into a double play. Top of the second, he strikes out 2 batters and gets a pop fly. John Birdie made a great catch near the dugout. If you remember, he got an assist by first base coach Jose Javier, so that was great. Third inning, he had runners at the corners with 2 outs in a scoreless game. He picks off Xavier Edwards to end the inning. He cruises through the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now, we get to the 7th. He gives up a leadoff single, but he gets former Cub prospect Matt Mervis to ground into a double play. 2 outs, Ronnie Simon singles, and then Derek Hill just off the IL. He hits a 2-run blast. Ray's night was over, but 6 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 hit, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 4 Ks with the pickoff through 98 pitches. He's given.
Can I just say really quick, Crawly? That's the definition of a quality start.
So you like the 2 runs, not the 3 runs?
Yeah, that's a quality start. That's a quality start. We'll more on that later. If you've been listening to the Mully and Haw show, I ranted and raved already this morning, but more to come on that. But that That is a quality start in Major League Baseball.
Right. That was a good quality start. He's given up 2 runs or less in 5 of his 6 starts, and in 2 of his last 3 starts, he's made it through the 6th inning. So he's 3-0 with a 2.90 ERA as a starter this season. And I don't think any of us could have predicted that, but that was what the Cubs really kind of needed there.
No way. He has been, boy, when they first slotted him in, I was like, who, what? Come on.
Hey, it worked out great. And then, with the offense struggling in 3 of the last 4 games, the hope was that a not very good Marlins pitching staff would be the remedy the Cubs bats need. But Dustin, it was a frustrating start in that game because the Cubs were hitting the ball hard, but either right at a defender or some Marlins defender would make a spectacular play.
Right.
2nd inning, Kyle Tucker was robbed of a base hit by second baseman Ronnie Simon on a ball hit 101 off the bat. 2nd inning, Michael Busch and Nico Horner both hit balls over 100 right at a defender. At the 3rd, Dansby Swanson hits 103 miles off the bat, and 3rd baseman Graham Pauley makes a spectacular play to rob Swanson of extra base hits. That takes us to the bottom of the 5th. Nico hits a leadoff single and then steals 2nd. He didn't need to because after hitting 103 miles an hour, Dansby hits 107 into the left center bleachers, his 9th of the season. Dustin, phenomenal.
Yeah, he's been really, listen, that demotion, and again, this is where I give Craig Counsell enough grief, but this is one of those where I will tip the cap. Craig Counsell knew what he was doing by lowering Dansby Swanson in the batting order. Now, we're going to get to game 3. He was elevated in the order. That's a tease, but we'll get to that in a moment. But that was the right move, and Dansby has responded very well to that move.
Right. The next batter would be Miguel Amaya. He doubles, advances to 3rd on a wild pitch, and scores on a Kyle Tucker triple. And then Seiya Suzuki hit his 10th home run, and the Cubs were up 5-0. The team, Dustin, hit for the cycle in the bottom of the 5th.
I love that stat. I love that stat, Crawly. They hit for the cycle in the bottom of the 5th.
Now, with Seiya's home run, Dustin, the Cubs became the only team at that time when that happened in the majors with 3 players with at least 10 home runs in the season. That was PCA, that's Kyle Tucker, and that's Seiya Suzuki. But Dustin, going back to Dansby Swanson, maybe it was moving him in the lineup, maybe it wasn't. Who knows? He's just a guy that hits hot and cold. That's the only thing I could tell you.
Yeah, he has in his career, he is an up and down kind of guy, right? Mm-hmm.
In April, Dustin, he was slashing 188, 233, 333. In May, he's hit 364, 440, 682. I mean, it's a complete turnaround. And that's the thing about him. He is the type of guy that when he's hot, he can carry you. And when he's not, though, there's no, we'll talk about Kyle Tucker not being hot. He's struggling right now, but he still gets doubles. He still does things.
Yeah, he just hit a triple in the game we just reviewed, right?
Right, but that is not Dansby. Like, when he's cold, it's nothing. A lot of strikeouts.
He is ice cold, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you see this by Chris Kompka, most home runs at a shortstop this season. Dansby tied with Francisco Lindor, ahead of guys like Ellie De La Cruz, Mookie Betts, Trevor Story, Corey Seager. So it just kind of shows you what kind of season he is and what it happens when he gets hot. But I want to say when the Braves won the World Series with Dansby on the team, I want to say he was hitting 8th as well. And I always feel like that's a good spot for him because when he's hot, he gives you offense at the bottom of the order. Remember, we were talking about 7th, 8th, 9th Cubs hitters, and that was when Dansby was down there.
The bottom of the order carried the Cubs early on.
Right, and that's when Dansby and PCA were both down there. And so, if he's hot, it'll carry you and you get runs at the bottom of the order. And if he's not, it doesn't affect you as much. But, the thing about the game, Dustin, that got me a little nervous. I love that stat too, hitting for the cycle in the 5th. But again, they really didn't do much in any of the other innings.
No, they did not. All right, that takes us to game number 2. So the Cubs win game number 1. Game number 2, Ben Brown, and Ben has been struggling at Wrigley. We talked about this when we previewed it. So this was really an important start for him personally, I felt.
Yeah, and I thought it was a pretty good start. I mean, we talked about the splits, like you said, 0-3 with the 7.91 at ERA on the road or at home, and on the road he's 3-0 with a 159. He pitched
big difference, right?
Huge,
I mean, that's great. That's like Grand Canyon difference in baseball.
He did pitch 5 1/3 innings, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits. The key, once again, and you always see this with Ben, no walks and 6 Ks.
Huge.
No walks.
Huge number. the number that jumped off the page, if you looked at the box score only, was the fact, Crawly, no walks.
And he finished his outing with 72 pitches, right? He gave up a solo home run to Kyle Stowers, and that guy can hit. We saw that.
Oh my gosh, did he hit? Yeah.
In the second inning. And then in the fifth, Connor Norby led off the inning with the triple, right? So the infield's playing in now. He got the next batter, Derek Hill, to strike out. But with the infield still playing in, Brown gets Javier Sanoja to hit one to Nico. He's playing in, but he bobbles the ball. He throws out Sanoja, but Norby scores. But I think if Nico fields that cleanly, and I think if you ask him, he thinks he should have made that play, the runner doesn't score. It wasn't an error, so it's an earned run. But Brown struck out Xavier Edwards for the third out. But I'm going to say, Brown made it to the sixth with the score tied at 2. He gave up a leadoff single, struck out the next batter, and gave up another single. His night's over, but Caleb Thielbar came in and got a strikeout and a flyout to end the threat. But Dustin, again, with the offense, right?
It's not clicking. It's not clicking right now.
It's not.
It's not.
Off.
And we've been blessed as Cub fans. The offense was clicking in a way that nobody, not even Jed Hoyer, when he put this team together, Carter Hawkins, when they put this team together, would have predicted. But now it's been kind of so stale that you're like, right? I mean, it almost goes back to Theo. The offense is broke.
Right. In this game, the Cubs only had 4 hits through 8 innings, and 2 of those were off the bat of PCA, who was leading off again. Miami starter Valente Beloso gave up a leadoff single to PCA in the bottom of the first, but he was left stranded. The next hit didn't come until PCA hit a solo home run in the third to tie the game at 1. Cubs nearly got to Beloso in the fourth when they loaded the bases with 1 out, but Moises Ballesteros, who got the call up from Iowa earlier that day, grounds into a double play to end the threat. Beloso ran into trouble in the fifth, but his defense kind of let him down on that. Nico got hit by a pitch to lead off the inning. Nicky Lopez hits one to first baseman Eric Wagaman, who tried to start a 3-6-1 double play, but his throw is wide to the shortstop. Nico gets to third, Lopez to second on the E3, and then who else again? PCA hits a sac fly to tie the game at 2.
He's always in the mix, right? He's always in the mix.
Usually. And so Tucker, Suzuki, Bush, and Kelly were a combined 2 for 16, with Tucker and Seiya going 0 for 8. And the Cubs only had 2 extra base hits all game. It's just not good enough.
Well, no, that's a recipe for disaster. But here's what was encouraging.
Well,
Julian Merriweather and Ryan Presley. The last time, Crawly, in all seriousness, I mean, the last time we podcasted, we talked about Ryan Presley coming into almost they may as well have had you or I come out the last time they used Ryan Presley before this outing. I mean, you talk about the most unserious time in a baseball game. They put him out there just to kind of get right. And they put him out there in a bases loaded moment, and he delivered.
He did. So the good, the bad was Julian Merriweather. The good was Ryan Presley.
Right. The good and the bad, right.
Right. And so when you take a look here, those were 2 guys, Dustin, that were supposed to be anchors to this bullpen.
Those guys are supposed to be in the circle of trust.
Merriweather was going to be your 7th inning guy. Presley, your 9th inning guy. They've both struggled. Both appeared in the 7th inning with different results. The game's tied at 2. Merriweather starts the inning by giving up a home run to Connor Norby to put Miami ahead 3-2. He gave up a single to Derek Hill to stole second before getting Javier Sanoja to line out and Xavier Edwards to fly out. So he got 2 outs, but then he gave up a single to Jesus Sanchez. Hill scores. Sanchez goes to second on the throw home. Cubs are now down 4-2. Merriweather then walks the next 2 batters to load the bases.
Those walks are terrible. I mean, just come on.
His night's over. He pitched 2/3 of an inning, gave up 2 runs on 3 hits with 2 walks, 1 home run, and 0 strikeouts. Dustin, Merriweather's 0 for 1 with a 5.06 ERA in 18 games and 13 strikeouts in 16 innings pitched. That's bad for a guy who's supposed to be a strikeout pitcher to not really do that there. And his velocity's down about 2 to 3 miles an hour. So I don't know if there's an injury there. I don't know if there's a mechanical issue, but he's given up 2 runs in 3 of his last 4 appearances and has 0 strikeouts in 3 of his last appearances. That's
tomorrow, Crawly. Tommy Hotovy will be on with Mullion Hall at 7 a.m. Special broadcast. We'll talk about that more in a moment. But Tommy Hotovy, we'll ask him how he's going to pitch Julian Merriweather before the White Sox series.
Right. Is there a health issue? Is there a mechanical issue? I don't know. But Ryan Presley, who lost his closer's job, like you mentioned, did a great job with the bases loaded and 2 outs.
Really did.
Striking out Kyle Stowers, who's like we said, great hitter. And so that allowed the Cubs to come back. And Dustin, even though they've been bad offensively, they've also showed they've had no quits. They're going to go all 27 outs. And
how many people left, Crawly? I know you are a proponent of not leaving. You told us before, if you're a listener, a longtime listener to this podcast, your father was like, absolutely no way. We're here. We're staying until the bitter end. But I mean, I, with my early wake up, I was done. I was so mad that I was like, am I going to stick with it? And I will, full disclosure, I'm always honest to a fault. I laid down in the middle of the ninth inning in bed. And then I was like, bouncing off the walls. That was fantastic.
It was a good one, and so you got Jesus Tinoco who comes in, and Carson Kelly reaches an error by the shortstop. And the second that happened, what do we say? Good teams make bad teams pay for their mistakes.
Yes, sir.
As Swanson draws a walk, now a key play happens in the next at bat. Moises Ballesteros, it's his MLB debut. It's not going good. Not going good. He's 0 for 3, and he hit into a bases loaded double.
Well, he doesn't strike out, but he swings at every pitch. I mean,
now he hit another ground ball, which could have been a 4-6-3 double play, right? Like, let's say if he's frustrated, he yells, he throws the bat, whatever, but he's hustling his butt. And
he busted his rear end on that one. Yep.
If he would have let him affect him, if he wasn't busting down the line, that's a double play. And I don't know if the Cubs win that game.
Who knows, right?
Instead, he's safe. Runners at the corner, 1 out. Vidal Brujan comes in to pinch hit. Mr. Clutch, Nico Horner singles. Carson Kelly scores. So now you got Vidal Brujan at third. Runners at the corner for Justin Turner, the old man who comes into the game batting 153 with no extra base hits on the season. He laces ones to the left field corner. This is the best part, Dustin. Nico Horner, when he's rounding third, has the biggest grin on his face. He knows he's going to score. Cubs come back 5-4. How about some of these little stats here, Dustin? This is Nico Horner. He became the first Cub to score a run on his birthday on a walk-off hit since Ian Happ, who was on base as a pinch runner for David Bodie's walk-off grand slam, 8/12/2018. I was at that game.
How does Chris Kampka keep track of this stuff? That more amazing than the fact that the Cubs executed that is the fact that somebody can match it up and tell us when this, and fast. This wasn't like 2 days later. This is like moments late, minutes later. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then, of course, Justin Turner. Look at the smile on his face.
You got to put that back up there. You got to put that back up if you can. I mean, you got to let that breathe a second. Look at that.
Got the bubble gum bucket. You got the water. He's a happy man. And he was the oldest Cub with a walk-off since old school Davey Lopes.
I heard that stat, and that that brought me back, right? I mean, 41-60. Davey Lopes was a old-time second baseman, shortstop kind of backup guy.
Yeah, walk-off home run, July 2nd, 1986. And, of course, the win probability absolutely shifted completely in that one, and that was just unbelievable. A great game, and now the Cubs are going for the sweep against Jameson Taillon, was up against Ryan Weathers, who's coming off the IL.
Yeah, Weathers, Taillon, the pitching matchup. Taillon, I mean, the long ball, what do you give up? 4 against the Mets?
Yeah, and here, I know that I don't want to get you mad again, but here's what he had to say.
I thought the stuff was okay. I thought it ticked up a little bit. Me and Tommy identified a few things in between starts, worked on some good stuff. Just somewhat similar to last outing as far as I thought it was better tonight, but obviously the home runs, I think 2 of them were with 2 strikes, so that's just not a good trend, and I need to put a stop to that. Probably had room to expand a little more with 2 strikes, but overall, thought the stuff was pretty good.
Boy, Dustin, you're right. He gave up 4 home runs against the Mets, and now you're facing a weaker Marlins team. Gave up another 3 solo home runs. Top of the second, Kyle Stowers crushes one to put the Marlins up 1-0. Top of the fourth, he gives up a solo home run to Augustin Ramirez. And then after one batter, he gives up another home run to Stowers. That's the one that we lost in the fog. 3 home runs in 4 innings. And again, if you look at the line, if you didn't watch the game, you just look at the box scores.
Well, now you're teeing me up here. Go ahead, keep going.
He gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, 6 innings, no walks, and 7 Ks. That's a quality start. I know you're going to get mad, but that's what it is.
It's a word. It's got to be the absolute positively worst stat in Major League Baseball.
Here's the reason.
It makes no sense, especially if you want, okay, fine, the 3-run thing, but when it's solo home runs, that's all on him. He served those up. That's not the second baseman's fault. That's not this. That's not that. That's on him. He has to wear that. And that is not a quality. Jameson Taillon is a very nice guy. I like Jameson Taillon a ton. I got a ton of time for that guy. The guy's great talking to the media. Seems very nice. I'd love to have a beer with him or a coffee, whatever he chooses. But you can't give up. He is now, Crawly, he's now supposed to be kind of the anchor. Maybe not the ace, but at least the anchor of this staff. And that the last 2 outings, not good enough. Not good enough.
I would say the one thing, and when you talk about something like a quality start, it's a stat, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you told me, hey, Jameson Taillon against the Mets gave up 3 home runs, let's just say 3 solo home runs. He gave one up to Pete Alonso and Juan Soto.
Right.
Totally
different.
Right. It
totally
doesn't,
different.
There's no way to weigh the quality of the team, right? So if you gave up 3 solo home runs to the Mets, you're like, or the Dodgers. Okay. But if you're telling me you give up 3 home runs to the Marlins, that's, and again, he mentioned twice he had guys against Ramirez and against one of them in Stowers. He had them in 0-2 and 1-2 counts. And so that's what drives you up a wall. How about this one, Dustin? For the season, J-Mo's walked 9 batters in 9 starts, but he's given up 13 home runs. So he has walked more he has given up more home runs than he's walked batters.
That's terrible. I feel like it's an approach type of thing, right? And again, here's the other thing. Okay, so Taillon gives up the 3 home runs. Nobody's satisfied with that, but the Cubs offense did absolutely nothing.
And that's the thing, Dustin. And
are we going to get into the lineup at all?
Absolutely, we're absolutely going to get in the lineup.
I'll raise both hands, not one, not the other. I am a lineupista. Okay, that lineup was hot garbage.
Well, I think, Dustin, and this is just my theory, I think the offenses suck so bad that he's basically kind of just put a bunch of names in a hat and just try something different,
my gosh,
right?
Don't say that. That's really upsetting.
So it was Swanson, Tucker, Suzuki, Kelly, Crow, Armstrong, Hoyer, Amaya, Turner, and Birdie. And to me, you can't have Turner and Birdie at the bottom. I don't understand that at all. That was mind blowing. And I can tell you, Carson Kelly's been struggling, and especially ever since he got hit in the finger. But that's why I think it was.
He should not be DHing. He should not be DHing.
The Cubs scored 1 run on 5 hits. Their lone home run came on a Seiya Suzuki home run. But the offense, Dustin, never really put up much of a fight. And that's the thing with the quality start. You go have 3 runs to the Marlins, the 29th best start, or the 29th starter ERA, the second worst in all baseball, and like the 24th worst bullpen. 3 runs should win you. You should be able to score 3 runs.
Sure,
right?
should. Yeah.
Their best chance came in the bottom of the 6th. Kyle Tucker hit a 1-out double on a check swing. So it was an oops, but it went down the line where everyone was kind of shifted towards the right side of the diamond. And so he gets the second, and then Seiya struck out for the 2nd out. Carson Kelly walked. And then for some reason, PCA bunts. I don't know what he was doing there. And the bunt just popped straight up, and he just lucked out. It landed.
Yeah,
right
that was a 2-out. That was a 2-out situation, and he laid down that bunt. That was first pitch, right? I mean,
it was awful.
He tried to catch the defense by surprise, but the way he's been hitting, I can't believe that Craig Counsell ordered that up.
I just wish one of these days they would give guys like you or me press passes to ask Craig Counsell after a game.
Well, these are the questions. I mean, I need to know about the lineup. I need to know about that situation.
Who called? Did someone call for that bunt, or was that one on his own?
Right. I mean, who ordered the code red, Crawly?
You can't handle the truth on that, Dustin. But
well played.
That double from Tucker was the only time the Cubs had a runner in scoring position all game.
Yeah.
They lost
that's just unsatisfying. Again, we would always take 2 out of 3, right? We'd always take 2 out of 3. But when you win the first 2, then you do get, I guess, excessive or greedy, whatever word you want to use. It's just the approach. Let's get into the lineup a second. And you and I have talked about this on the podcast. We've texted about it. We've talked about it on the phone. I talked about it on the air. Okay. Couple things here. We're looking at the lineup. If you're not with us on the video, we're looking at the lineup right now. And who's playing first base? Oh, Justin Turner, batting 8th, probably the right spot. Where's Michael Busch? Not playing. Why? Oh, because there's a lefty. Again, so if the Cubs face a lefty in Craig Tober, Michael Busch is sitting? No, he's not. He's not sitting. I know he's not sitting. So when you already have won the series, why not let him try to figure out how to hit left-handed pitch?
Well,
That's my biggest issue with the lineup. I don't necessarily understand. Same idea. Okay, why today? Why did Swanson bat lead off and now PCA was batting 5th? That's another little thing, but it makes you scratch your head. But the biggest thing for me is let Michael Busch figure out how to hit left-handed pitching when you've already won the series.
Well, here's this one, Dustin.
And today's a day off, by the way, right? Today's a day off.
Hold on here, though. Bottom of the 7th. This is what pissed me off last night. I'm with my friend Mitch. We're at the game, and I turned to him, and now it's the bottom of the 7th. You're down 3-1. Miguel Amaya lines out. You have 8 outs left to work with. There's a righty pitching. Okay,
so
at the end of the game.
Pinch hit there. Yeah.
Why not pinch him, hit him right there? Why not pinch hit Michael Busch against a righty-lefty matchup?
Great point. Great. Listen, Crawly, you're bringing up another great point. Yeah.
And Dustin, when we talk about this being unsatisfying, here's the thing: the Cubs had one of the toughest schedules I've ever seen, and they were done with that portion of the schedule. And we were so looking forward to this, like, oh, what are they going to do against the Marlins and the White Sox? And oh boy, they're going to once we see those teams, whoo. But this is the time where I was hoping to see the Cubs tighten things up defensively, good base running, etc., play some good ball, and stack wins. But ever since they got 9 runs in extra innings in San Francisco, the offense hasn't clicked. On Monday, they scored all of them in 1 inning in the 5th. On Tuesday, they only had 4 hits and 2 runs after 8th innings before a miracle comeback. You can't count on that all the time. And on Wednesday, 1 run and only 2 extra base hits against a team that's ranked 29th in starting pitching ERA and 27th in bullpen whip. I know Weathers pitched a good game, and you still couldn't do anything against the bullpen. The Cubs average in the last week, Dustin, is 191, 28th in baseball, and their slug has been 20th in MLB at 367. And I saw what the Cubs offense did against a bad pitching Marlins rotation and bullpen. This is trust me, I'm not a White Sox fan in any stretch of the imagination, but I can tell you they can pitch much better than what the Marlins showed you. How are they going to do?
And their top 3 guys, the top 3 they have, and make your jokes here or whatever, the top 3 they have, the Cubs will be facing this weekend at the Federal Landmark.
Yep, better figure it out quick.
Better figure it out quick. You are listening to the Fly the W podcast. It is episode number 30 of season number 4. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. 5-star review would be appreciated. You can email us, crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com. You can watch us, as some of you are right now, on the YouTube page. All right, Crawly, we called this one the unsatisfying Cubs series win. Despite only winning 2 of 3, the Cubs are still in first place.
But they lost ground because the St. Louis Cardinals are 9-1 in their last 10. 9-1 in their last 10. So you got the Cubs in first place, Cardinals 1 game behind, the Brewers 4 back, the Reds 5, and the Pirates are 10 back. Dustin, I don't know if you saw this. I heard people already talking.
This is great. I hope you're going to do what I think you're going to do. Let's see.
I heard people already talking about Paul Skeens maybe being traded.
Oh, no, that's not what I was talking about. The Pope, the new Pope, who's a Sox fan. So since the new Pope was named, the Sox have been winning and the Cardinals have been winning. So he's anti-Cub, pro-Cardinal, and then pro-White Sox. And that's what's happened since we got our new Pope.
Well, hopefully the Cubs will be able to do something here. People were mad about that Roku game. Look, that's not a Cubs thing. It's not a marquee thing. It's a baseball thing. MLB, look at what the Cubs and the Mets did that Saturday night. That was Cade Horton made his debut there. But 2,021,000 viewers, making it the most watched MLB telecast this season on any network. And I got to tell you, Dustin, that's why MLB does it. And that's why
the Roku. That was the Roku game. I thought that was.
I'm sorry. That was a Saturday. That was the Fox Saturday night game.
Yeah, that was the Fox game. Yeah.
Fox, but that's why they get those Roku and Apple TV games. And if you can get a Mets Cubs game, I mean, the 2 huge markets.
Oh, yeah.
That's just what's going to happen every
But hey,
time.
if it doesn't work out, you've always got Pat, Ron, and Zach on 670 The Score. That's free. We got an Odyssey app, so don't hesitate, because that's a great broadcast as well.
Absolutely. And we got, Dustin, speaking of the Pirates, an update on the injured Pirates fan, Caven Markwood, the fan who fell 20 feet end over end onto the field on April 30th. He spoke, his sister kind of put a statement out to the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. He said he broke everything, back and neck injuries. He said, I'm all right. I can't really sleep. I have a lot of back pain. A GoFundMe campaign was set up by the girlfriend's mother, and Markwood broke his neck, his clavicle, and his back. $58,000 has been raised as of Thursday.
That might cover the Advil.
Right, the Jello. Taryn Markwood, his sister, said in a statement to the Pirates and Cubs players, coaches, and staff, who all paused to take a knee in prayer during that tragic moment. Your compassion did not go unnoticed. It brought a sense of unity and hope amidst the chaos. Our prayers with the family, obviously, that kid recovers hopefully as much as he can.
Yeah, listen, I don't wish any ill will. I'd like to know a little bit more about what happened exactly. But listen, I'm glad we don't have worse news to report. If you're willing and you're able to go to GoFundMe, go ahead. But a lot to learn, I think, about this story. All right, Tuesday, our guy Bruce Levine broke some big news.
Yes, sir. Moises Ballesteros, one of the Cubs' top prospects and one of the top 100 prospects in baseball, was called up. So what happened here, Dustin? Right-handed pitcher Tyson Miller, who I've been pining for, he is transferred to the 60-day IL. He was hit by a ball that was batted, so he's just had some awful luck this year. Outfielder Ian Happ is transferred to the 10-day injured list with the left oblique strain, and Moises Ballesteros came up. You guys on the Mully and Haw show, you had Ian Happ on talking a little bit about
we didn't. The Score did. That was
Score did. I'm sorry.
That was Rahimi and Harris, our new midday show. Yeah, let's hear what Ian Happ had to say to them.
Tried really hard to get back and get it right and be able to play at some point this week, but just wasn't right. Wasn't the smartest thing for the length of the season. So take the time and be ready to go next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. All right. Listen, I think they can survive the White Sox.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Dustin, is that...
And Suzuki, to a credit, looked okay on left.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Dustin. I'm glad, because in the past, what the Cubs have usually done is they've played a man short on the bench and not let the guy rest. And I think that's an awful way to do it. I'm glad they gave the kid a call up. I just wish they would have given him another start yesterday.
Again, we've talked about, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. But I think in general, it's the smart move. And as long as he gets back healthy, he really is an important part of the lineup. He is a guy that sees a lot of pitches. He's the prototypical leadoff hitter that you like to see, that can have a little bit of pop, that can get on base, has a good on base percentage. So hopefully he does well. And I just want to tell our listeners, we got a lot on this show today, so we're going to have to move on, but we will get back to the news about Pete Rose when we meet again and talk on Sunday.
All right. That'll be Sunday or Monday of this coming week. This is the Fly the W podcast. It's episode 30. It's season number 4, an unsatisfying Cubs series win. It's meatloaf, right? Like, as we would like to say. And that's okay. So let's get into it, Crawly. We got a big weekend. It's a fun rivalry still, but it's Cubs, White Sox, Wrigley. We got a day game tomorrow, and I think maybe Cade Horton as a starter. None of this opener garbage where we face the 3 best Sox hitters and blah blah blah. Like, Cade Horton's going to get the ball from Jump Street, I think, tomorrow. That's where everybody's speculating.
Yes, no, that is official.
It's official.
He is getting the start tomorrow, and I will be at Wrigley Field to watch.
Crawly's at Wrigley tomorrow. Look out.
Yes, sir. I will be in the bleachers, so I will hopefully my losing streak ends. But we do have an announcement.
If not, I'm going to blame it on you.
We do have an exciting announcement to make. As you know, we have been picked up off the waiver wires. We are with a new company called Blue Wire that will be supporting our podcast. Blue Wire, they have a lot of great podcasts with guys like Cam Newton. They have Penny Hardaway and Dwight Howard on their podcast. And they also have a lot of great baseball podcasts, including our next guest, Josh Nelson from Sox Machine. Josh, how are you doing, buddy?
There he is.
I'm doing well. How are you guys? Are you ready for this weekend?
I am. I'm excited. I'm excited about it. Your White Sox are playing a little bit better of a brand of baseball. They're at least competitive right now, Josh, right?
Yeah, it feels like they've been blessed by a holy entity.
Yes. I gotta tell you.
What's the record? What's the record since the new Pope, Josh?
I think they've only lost 2 games.
Yeah.
Since Pope Bob has taken over Vatican City. But yeah, they are playing so much better in May. Dustin, the White Sox already halfway through May have more wins this month than all of April, and we're only halfway through the month. So this is going way better than April.
Now, Josh, we are excited to join the Blue Wire team. I think it's a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it and being able to talk to you. Last time I talked to you, do you remember what happened that night?
No, I don't.
This is a true story.
Crawly's memory is fantastic.
I'm no Les Grobstein, but I do all right. But Josh and I many times would appear with Josh Friedman over on CLTV, and it was in January. And 2 guys that probably didn't care too much about the Bears game, but were always willing to talk baseball.
Oh my!
We were invited during a Bears playoff game when no one cared about baseball. I was invited to talk about the Cubs, so I had a little segment with Josh talking about the Cubs, and Josh was talking about White Sox. And this is right before Cubs convention. And all this stuff is in January. This is the night that the Cubs are playing the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs, and I get done with my segment and I sit down with all the WGN sports guys, Dan Roan, and Josh is talking. And when both Josh and I were doing our segments, nobody in the entire room is watching us. Everybody's watching the football game on the TV. And so we're sitting there and I'm watching the game, and Josh is doing his bit with Josh and Josh are going at it, talking White Sox baseball as they set up the field goal for Cody Parkey and the double doink. The whole room. I never went back to listen to it. I don't know if they cut out the audio on that. The whole newsroom, sports room groaned as you were sitting there talking with Josh Bryan.
I have that clip saved. I have that clip saved because I'm talking about Luis Robert, and Friedman's head just sinks because we see in the monitor above the cameras that Parkey just double joinked. So
all right, Josh, you just mentioned it, the Luis Robert. So what do you think? What's the timetable? All-Star game after the trade deadline? I mean, there's no way he's playing on the Sox in 26, right?
I agree with you. There's no way I think that happens. The situation for Luis Robert as we continue to progress through the season, there's 2 issues on hand. One, there's not a real clear trade partner. We have heard gossip and rumors that maybe the New York Mets are already kicking the tires on Luis Robert. But the second problem is that, listen, I'm a big stat guy, advanced metrics, all that stuff in Baseball Savant. We're approaching game 50 of the year, and Luis Robert is still batting 200. That is a gigantic red flag. There are contact issues. Yes, when Luis Robert does get on base, he is running wild, and that could be an attractive attribute for other teams, but he's not getting on base consistently. There's just not that home run power. What everybody was hoping to see was the 2021 version of Luis Robert, a 4-WAR type of center fielder who can win you a Gold Glove and hit more than 30 home runs. That Luis Robert's not here. So for Chris Getz now, when he's having negotiations or he's receiving text messages from other GMs, Crawly and Dustin, like the price tag he had in his mind at the winter meetings cannot be the same it is today. So now he has to step back from his demands. And there's the whole contract situation. It's just a $2 million buyout after this year for Luis Robert, or a $20 million option. That is a gigantic difference in salary between a buyout and a guaranteed contract, especially when so many teams in the league are having issues with their local TV money. That $18 million is significant. So what teams are offering is a completely different price. And Chris Getz may say it's a low ball offer, but honestly, it may be closer to the value of who Luis Robert is right now. And that is the biggest story for the White Sox, is what's happened to Luis Robert, because they really do need to trade him. And they were hoping that whatever they got back in a trade would help with their rebuild.
Now, Josh, Will Venable was a Cubs coach, first base coach, third base coach, and he was seen. I think Theo was the one that really hired him and really kind of saw potential of him as being a great manager. I'm sure you were not heartbroken when Pedro Grifol showed the door. What do you think so far of Will Venable as the skipper of the White Sox?
Venable has been consistent since the winter meetings. We got an opportunity to cover those at Sox Machine down in Dallas. And Venable said many times in his press conferences that he was going to lead by empathy. And I think that's starting to pay off. Not calling out players, not throwing them under the bus when he had many opportunities to do so in April. It's not so much shrug it and move on. It's, yeah, we made some mistakes. We're going to address it, but there have been some positives as well. And we're trying to focus on the positives. And I think that's starting to give a lot of these younger players, maybe we call, the phrase quadruple A players, fringe major leaguers, they're starting to gain more confidence. And because of that extra confidence, they are playing a better brand of baseball in the month of May. And they just won a road series in Cincinnati. So I think Will Venable has done wonders so far. And I'm curious to see how this works for Venable in the second half, because while I think the roster could get worse by unloading the veterans that he has, if the young players are buying what he's selling, maybe they can excel sooner than later.
Well, I'm sure you've noticed the difference. I mean, when it comes to hitting, the White Sox struggle in hitting, but the pitching, especially the starters, that has to be a complete surprise as far as how good. I mean, the Sox always have developed good pitchers, but just, you guys are getting really good starting pitching right now.
Yeah, and it feels like it's smoke and mirrors for the White Sox because it's not premium stuff. When you look at those advanced metrics, if you look at Stuff Plus, you're going to see the White Sox at the bottom. The quality of the fastballs, the quality of the sliders, just not there. It's the premium arm talent that the White Sox are lacking right now. But Crawly, to your point, entering this series, the Chicago White Sox are 12th in Major League Baseball in starter ERA. In the month of May, the incomplete pitching staff is 11th right now. That's why the White Sox are playing better baseball. They're doing a better job at run prevention. The offense is struggling. It is the worst hitting offense in Major League Baseball. They barely have a team OPS over 600 this year. That's kind of embarrassing for the White Sox. But this is going to be a great test for the White Sox pitching staff, especially the starters. Can they continue generating weak contact against one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball? They're going to focus a lot going east to west. So it's not so much up and down the zone, it's left and right. They're going to focus on the corners. The one pitch that Cubs fans are going to have to watch, especially when you had Jonathan Cannon and Shane Smith, who takes the ball on Friday, is this kick change or the variety of changeups that the White Sox are throwing. These are not your 78, 80 mile per hour variations. They are your 91, 92, and they got incredible sync with them. And the director of pitching, Brian Bannister, along with pitching coach Ethan Katz, has really harnessed this type of pitch, seam effect shakes and all that jazz, and then all the advanced terminology that pitchers are using today to manipulate and how the ball travels down the pitching tunnel. So if Cubs hitters have struggled hitting the changeup, this is not going to be a fun weekend for them. They're going to see a lot of these changeups. But if the White Sox cannot throw changeups in the strike zone, like I mentioned, the fastballs and sliders, they're not as good as other staffs in Major League Baseball. And that's where the test really begins. Because the Cubs hitters, Crawly, are aggressive early in the zone, early in the count, I should say. And they punish White Sox pitchers early in games. It could be an ugly series for the White Sox.
Right. But fortunately for you guys, the Cubs have had a week where the hitting just hasn't been there against, they struggled for a couple games against the Giants. They struggled against the Mets. and they struggled against Miami, which isn't as good of a pitching staff as the White Sox. But we're excited for game one. I'm going to be there tomorrow. Cade Horton versus Shane Smith. And I just slapped my head obviously we're excited about Cade Horton. The kid is just unbelievable, four-seam fastball, sweepers, curveballs, and so this is his first start. He came in after an opener, but Shane Smith, I mean, the White Sox Rule 5 draft pick from the Brewers. And of course he has to come from the Brewers. So thank you guys for, at least he's not in the NL Central anymore, but he's had a really good year.
He's probably the White Sox All-Star, and he would be the first Rule 5 pick to make the All-Star game since Dan Uggla with the Atlanta Braves. Shane Smith blew us away in spring training. We didn't know what to make of him. We thought that he would be like a kind of a swing man, lawn reliever for the White Sox when he got taken in the winter meetings. And then he threw 98 in spring training. And then he kind of embarrassed Shohei Ohtani in a spring training outing. And it's like, who is this guy? We sure the Milwaukee Brewers couldn't use this arm? And then the White Sox decided it's too good of stuff to not try and have Shane Smith be a starting pitcher. And it's been wonders. He has been by far the most positive and biggest surprise for the Chicago White Sox in 2025. And he is someone that you can start building your rotation as far as going from rebuild transition to contending, in my opinion, because he does have that type of premium stuff. It's mid-90s fastball. It is a lethal changeup. Again, Cubs hitters that struggle against the changeup are not going to have fun against Shane Smith on Friday. In his last 7 starts, Shane Smith has a sub-2 ERA. So it's going to be difficult for the Cubs, I think, in the first 5 innings against Shane Smith. And I'm excited for Cubs fans to see just how good he is, because I'm sure you guys on the north side have been wondering, who is this Shane Smith guy? I've never heard of him before. You'll get an opportunity to see him on Friday.
You guys got him in the Rule 5 draft. We got Gage Workman, and we know how that worked out for both of us.
Yeah. He's back with Detroit now. He just keeps bouncing around.
Now, game 2, we got Matt Boyd versus Sean Burke. And, I'm sure White Sox fans are familiar with Matt Boyd with the Guardians last year, but he's 3-2 with the 2.78 ERA. And that's really kind of been a surprise for the Cubs. I mean, if you're asking me, even if you included Shota Imanaga, if you asked me right now who has been the most impressive on the staff, for me, it's Matt Boyd.
Yeah, Boyd has to step up. The Cubs don't have a choice. And the Cubs starting pitching has been very good. I mean, they're getting great results from Colin Ray as well. And I am high on Cade Horton. If these guys can hold up, I think, Crawly, that's got to make Jed Hoyer's life a lot easier, because the Achilles heel right now for this Cubs team from an outside perspective is the bullpen. But if that's really the only area on the team that you have to focus on improving, we have seen teams in the past, the classic example is the Washington Nationals. You can rebuild a bullpen on the fly through the trade market. The Nationals had an awful bullpen a few years ago, completely rebuilt it in August. They won the World Series against the Houston Astros in 7 games. So it can be done. But right now for the Cubs, hopefully the starting pitching holds up. Hopefully Matthew Boyd holds up and there's no injury. That's like punching a hole through the nearest wooden object, right? For Cubs fans, nobody else can get hurt, especially after losing Justin Steele. So I'm expecting Boyd to have a really good game on Saturday. The White Sox used to be left-handed killers. Not so much these days.
Well, you guys got Sean Burke going up against Matt Boyd.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners a little bit about Sean Burke.
This is where the smoke and mirrors kicks in with the counter argument of how good the White Sox pitching has been. And that is Sean Burke. Sean Burke has more walks and strikeouts in his last 2 outings. Spanning 10 innings, Sean Burke has 8 walks to just 4 strikeouts. He's only allowed 2 earned runs. Now, Crawly, you and I both know you allow that many base runners and you allow that few of earned runs. Lady Luck is on your side. What does this look like when Lady Luck is not on your side? What does this look like when Mother Nature decides to change your mind and the wind is blowing out at Wrigley Field? I don't have high expectations.
I think he's lucking out because tomorrow the wind's supposed to be howling out and then it's supposed to be blowing in on Saturday. So Mother Nature may be looking kindly on Sean Burke. But yeah, we had a guy like that, Javier Assad, who for a long time was leading the league in runners stranded on base. And again, it just eventually the hits are going to fall in, and the more guys you let on base, the more probability that they're going to come around and score.
Yeah, it's a lot to navigate through. Like he can't have a game where he goes 5 innings and gives up 5 walks, Crawly. Not against this Cubs team. I mean, you're just asking to be down 5-6 runs halfway through the game.
Right. And then game 3 is another, surprise for the Cubs. Colin Ray, you want to talk about a life fest for us, man. Like when Justin Steele went down, it's just like, how are we going to pull this off? And if the Cubs are going to go deep, they're obviously going to need to make a move to get a front end starter. But Colin Ray's just really been really good. He had a little bit of a rough start against the Giants, but the Giants are a great team. He bounced back well against the Marlins, only giving up 2 runs in 6 innings. But Jonathan Cannon is a 24-year-old righty, and man, he looks like he's a big boy, huh?
So what I'm curious on how the White Sox are going to handle Sunday. They are not afraid to use an opener, and they are not afraid to use a lefty to take advantage of the opportunity against Kyle Tucker. So while it says Jonathan Cannon is the probable starter, do not be surprised if it's a reliever like Brandon Eisert who opens the game on Sunday, because Eisert's job is to obviously put up a 0, but to take on Kyle Tucker. And then once that at bat is gone, then Cannon gets the ball in the 2nd inning. This has been working really well for the White Sox, Crawly. And then what we're seeing from Cannon entering the game in the 2nd inning, he's pitching 5-6 innings, allowing 1 earned run or fewer when the White Sox implement this type of strategy. Well, you just do the math. Okay, it's the 7th or 8th inning, and we only have 1 run against Brandon Eisert and Jonathan Cannon. Who are these guys? Like, that's the kind of reactions we've been seeing the last couple of weeks. So I'm expecting Will Venable to implement that strategy on Sunday, because lefties kill Jonathan Cannon, and he doesn't have a lot of answers against left-handed pitching. He's still working on the changeup. He's effective against righties, but lefties really hurt Jonathan Cannon. So I'm curious to see on how Sunday goes. I do think it will be an opener for Cannon, but he's excelled in this type of, I guess, partnership that the White Sox have, having one guy take care of the 1st inning, and then Cannon takes care of innings 2 through 7.
Well, I got to tell you, Josh, you've known over the many, many years of the Crosstown Classic, it doesn't really matter what the records are or anything like that. It's just, what team is hot when they're playing and how things are going. And for me, I guess that's where I look at it. And I'm like, yeah, people say, oh, the Cubs are so great right now. Yeah, they had a really great run for about a month and a half. And then, of course, now it seems like they're struggling right as the White Sox are coming into town offensively. And now the White Sox have won 3 of their last 4 series. And so it's kind of like they got good vibes going. They're feeling good. And the Cubs are kind of limping into this. How do you see this series playing out? If you were to make a prediction, what would Josh's prediction be for the White Sox against the Cubs this weekend, knowing the starters as we got them right now?
My expectation is that the Cubs should sweep. If the Cubs don't sweep the White Sox, I think that's going to invite some interesting questions on Monday. Is this just like, it's not like excelling, right? The Cubs are not hitting out all cylinders after having such a tough start to the season. Why are the Cubs taking advantage of the Marlins and the White Sox? We know that this is a marathon of a season. So
right.
If the White Sox win a game, it's going to be like 3-2, 4-1, that they do it. And then Cubs fans are furious because it's like, how come we cannot hit this pitching? I don't even know who these guys are, and we can't hit them. But this is going to be a tough test for the White Sox pitching staff. The White Sox offense just has not been good. So that's the 2 battles I'm seeing here. White Sox starters against the Cubs' very talented offense. But I'm also going to be paying attention just to see on the struggles of the Cubs bullpen. This is not a good White Sox offense, but the White Sox offense took advantage against the Reds bullpen. And if the White Sox are going to surprise and pull a game, it's going to be late. And then that's going to even invite more questions and criticism of the Cubs is like, what are we doing with the bullpen if they cannot hold a lead against the White Sox?
Well, what I'm looking at right now is I really got to get Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki jump started. And when you mentioned they go east and west more than north and south, like Seiya Suzuki has been taking some like Javi Baez, not this year's Javi Baez, but the last couple of years Javi Baez type swings on sweepers and stuff like outside the zone. I was just kind of looking at that. So if those two guys, they're really, the Cubs lucked out where they were just having a lot of production from Pete Crow Armstrong, Miguel Amaya. They're 7, 8, 9 hitters, right? And Carson Kelly came out of nowhere and looked like the second coming of Barry Bonds is what we were joking about. But now all of a sudden, he's come down. Carson Kelly's come down to earth a little bit. And then, Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki, who are your 2-3 hitters, have really just not looked good. And then Ian Happ as the leadoff hitter, not having him really hurt. So it's just like, the last game against the Marlins, you saw Craig Counsell trying to mix it up and change the lineup up. That's my only nerves right now. I know that the Cubs have a superior team to the White Sox, but sometimes it's just a matter when you play a guy and who you face in their rotation and all sorts of things like that. So I'm hoping that the Cubs offense can kind of get off the schneid and really, like when we saw that first month and a half, they were like breaking records for the amount of times they scored 10 runs. And then lately you're just like, struggling to score any runs against the Marlins. And you're like, come on, this can't be happening. It happened last year where the offense kind of died in May and June and they never came back. You just hope that this is a shorter slump. They can get out of it and that the White Sox are the team that they can do it because, again, win or lose, these are just fun series in a way for Cubs and Sox fans. Like if your team is struggling and you win that series, it's almost like your World Series right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just win any game for the White Sox. And the narrative, like we're talking in mid-May, the next time Cubs and White Sox play is late July at Wright Field on the south side. We're going to be paying attention to not only what's happening on the field, but all the trade gossip that's happening as well. These two teams could look different the next time that they play. So I don't know how much we're going to learn from this series and how much that will carry over the next time the White Sox and the Cubs play. But I feel like this is a good barometer series, Crawly, just to see where the teams are as everyone's still in a learning phase of what their next moves are going to be. Obviously, the Cubs are buyers and the White Sox are sellers. But to your point, I feel like this could be the jumping point for some players, either positively or negatively, and where they end up or just how Jed Hoyer's shopping list looks.
Well, I agree 100%. And Josh, we want to appreciate you for jumping on here to talk with us about this Crosstown series. Tell our listeners where they can find your work, where they can listen to you, where they can read you, all those fun things.
Yeah, you can go to soxmachine.com. James Fegan is our beat reporter, part of the BBWAA. He'll be at Wrigley covering all the games. He's coming home from Cincinnati. Jim Margulis is our managing editor. He's our columnist. So we've got articles every single day. You can listen to the Sox Machine podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're on all the social media platforms, including Blue Sky. You can just follow us at Sox Machine.
Thanks again, Josh. And again, this weekend, Cub versus Sox. After that, we're all Bears fans together, right?
I'm a 49ers fan, and that's a whole other ball and a whole other game, and yeah, whatever. But yes, yeah, very interesting with the Bears today with new books coming out. But no, this was a blast, Crawly. Thank you so much. And you guys do awesome work at Fly the W. I'm so glad that Blue Wire was able to add you on.
We appreciate you, my friend, and we're just going to hope, like you said, that the Cubs can pull this off. Go Cubs!
It's all over.